Okay, TAC Talk episode 3. I am joined by Tombo Matt Cox, and Bingo. I've got too much muscle mass, count well. Referencing the last episode there. So today we are going to talk about.
Never living that one down, am I?
Well, I didn't think about it until Matty brought it up. So that's your new.
Not one of Matty's jokes, eh? Christ.
So today we're going to talk about competitive CrossFit and training for competitive CrossFit in particular. Oh, what you got there, Bing?
Just a kind of rain, total body fuel.
What flavour today, mate?
We've got sour apple today.
Nice.
All right, okay, so we're going to talk about competitive CrossFit and what makes a good competitor, and programming, all that kind of stuff, and everything around it. So I kind of thought we'll start at the top with what makes. With being
Matty bottom of the ladder, then
with what makes a good CrossFit competitor. So someone who's successful in the sport, at various levels. What makes a good CrossFitter in that regard, Matty?
What makes a good CrossFitter? Interesting.
Someone who can lift.
Lifting. Yeah, lifting definitely is a part of it. I think being well-rounded and not having any weaknesses is obviously key. So finding a way to be dedicated enough to work on your weaknesses, that's the hardest part. So keeping training fun and interesting, and wanting to push to that intensity, that level that you need to do to be successful, whilst working on the things that essentially you don't really want to do. So Bing's a good example of that, where obviously a big lifter, but then realising that actually doing a lot of conditioning and gymnastics stuff is going to be the way to make the most progress. So to keep that consistent enough to see the progress, I think that's pretty important. So
that's a good point. What about you, Bing? What do you think?
Yeah, being well-rounded is the main thing. I think at one time people thought the strongest person wins. I think it's come more and more that it's just basically not the strongest person that wins anymore. It's only usually one workout that involves a strength element. You just need to be across the board. If you have one bad finish, like we've had in competitions, done really well, had one bad finish, all of a sudden it knocks you down numerous places on the leaderboard from one bad finish. You just need to be consistently up there all the way. Not necessarily even winning workouts.
No.
In our level of competition, just constantly up there, not have a bad workout. So basically, we should say you need to be well-rounded to not have a bad workout over a weekend. Or
What you saying, mate?
yeah, just echoing what the boy said. It's just being well-rounded. Obviously, not really having a wheelhouse. I can't remember who said it in some documentaries. It might have been Matt Fraser saying one of my key strengths is not having a wheelhouse. So it's just being consistent across the board. Like Bing said, when it comes to workouts, you don't necessarily have to win every workout, but you just have a consistent finish.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of say, in terms of your CrossFit ability, you're only as good as what you can't do. And especially in a competition, if you have a gaping hole in your game, whatever that may be, whether it's lifting, conditioning, you ain't winning, and you're probably not going to be on the podium, especially these days. Back in the day, probably 5 or 6 years ago, you could get away with having certain holes in your game, but these days you just can't. You need to be pretty shit hot across the board. Your weakest thing should still be pretty good now. If you're a weak in inverted commas lifter, you should still be lifting a decent weight, compared to the rest of the field.
The standard year on year just keeps going up. It just keeps getting better and better at this sort of level as well. Not even at a high level, just at a normal level. The standard is just going up and up.
Even this year, in Europe, I think kind of workout you said a couple of episodes ago, we said
what was 200th in
2017? Whatever it was, 21.2. 200 places in my score. It was now 900.
Yes. It's a 500% increase.
Yeah.
That's probably wrong for any mathematicians out there, but it sounded legit to me. Yeah, the standard goes up every year. Obviously, the amount of people who are doing it, that increases as well. But just some of the scores people are putting up, the level across the board. I was chatting to James yesterday, and I almost felt when I first started CrossFit in 2013, you had obviously the CrossFit Games has always been the pinnacle, but they were doing numbers where you think, oh yeah, it's big, but
It's fairly close.
It's-
If we
it's-
work towards that, we could
we
probably
work
get it.
towards it. So even at the games level, like you'll see boys say like snatching, say like 110, girls maybe snatching like 70. And this is like back 2013,
Yeah.
70, 80.
They were big lifts back then, really.
Yeah,
weren't
they
they?
Exactly.
were.
So
They
like
were.
you were looking at it as a fan, and obviously someone who did it relatively competitively, and thinking, wow, yeah, you know, I'm not that far off.
Yeah.
And then like now, like you see some
You've
like
got big bronze slinging
big
around
bronze,
hang snatches
like
at
140.
135, 140, and you're like,
Touch and go snatches 140, aren't they?
Well, I think when you did, was it a couple of years ago when you hit a 120 snatch at the European Championships? Was that the last one you did it, or the year before?
That wasn't last time, it was the year before. So 2019.
2019.
So yeah, you hit a 120 snatch in 2019 at European Championships, but that's still got you like 17th or 18th. I can't remember exactly.
I think it was lower, a little bit lower than that, sort of 13th or 14th, I think it was.
Yeah.
But
Well, but
120 snatch.
rewind-
yeah, that's a big snatch. And
Yeah,
you're in
it's
the top
legit,
10.
man.
2 years
Yeah.
ago.
rewind to
Ridiculous.
say like 5-6 years ago, a 120 snatch was like.
That's a winning score.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because I remember when me and Nick did the athlete games, there was on the day 2 there was a snatch ladder,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and the
remember,
last bar, well, the second to last bar was 110, and you could choose your weight after that.
Yeah.
So like 110, and that at the time was
Yeah.
quite a good level comp. There was
Yeah,
some
yeah.
like regional and games athletes there, and like 110 was the last bar.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like 110,
This
like,
was
Yeah, you'll be
120
warming up.
Was 120 was the last bar, then you chose your weight after that. But even that, it could have gone 120, 125, 130. Then you choose your weight, really.
yeah, especially now. I mean, especially when you see a lot of the guys what they're doing in America, like you know, a 300 pound snatch just seems pretty standard.
standard, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
which is just insane.
Yeah, freakish.
So would you think, like, obviously we spoke recently about a couple, well, last episode we spoke about coming back to the gym, and kind of we used Tombo and Bingo as a good example, coming back from their experiences and relative to what they want out of CrossFit. So Tombo is more of a like recreational athlete, Bingo is more of a competitive athlete. So in a competitive, with the competitiveness in mind, when you're training with the goal of competing in a competition, like what is it, you know, we should like aim to do? And let's kind of like, let's talk about programming, for example. Like where do you think you should start when you're, I don't know, whether you want to choose a program or, you know, assessing what type of training you do? Like, what do you think? Like,
Well, do we think that programming has to be individualized when you're competing, or can you follow a generic one? Because I think like within competing, there's levels to it, and there's
Yeah.
levels within levels.
I think on that, when you first start competing, a generic program is where you start with it, personally,
yeah,
just because then it gets you doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Once you've done a couple of competitions, you'll soon realise that, okay, I'm good at this stuff, not so good at this stuff. That's where I need to angle my training a bit more. Whether your generic program, for me, a generic program probably wasn't the best way to go, purely because my weakness is not around strength. A lot of generic programs focus heavily on strength.
yeah,
So I felt in the end going for an individualised probably benefited me more that way. But I do think a lot of people with a generic program will get what they need out of a generic program as
yeah.
such.
I think what Tombo just mentioned there about there's levels within the competitive realm of CrossFit. Obviously, you know, the top level being the CrossFit Games, then you know you can kind of like filter below that. I think up until a point, and this point is a very high point, most people can do a generic program suited for everyone, because I think for most people they just need like improved work capacity, just consistency,
enjoyment,
exactly,
and intensity when it's right. When
Which
they need the intensity,
some-
and you can get that from training with people.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
getting that.
And I kind of I remember I was chatting to one of my clients, Eddie, a while ago about golf, and he made a point, like, well, we kind of both made a point that too many people focus on like 1% gains when they're not even in the top 1% of the sport.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes quite true with CrossFit, is that like people are worrying about things they don't necessarily need to worry about. So like they'll come away from like a generic program and they'll just practice things like ring muscle ups, for example, which is important, but they'll spend loads of time practicing ring muscle ups and
lose fitness, lose general strength, and lose all the stuff that goes with it. A broad program, basically.
Yeah, and I think for most people, even people who are doing it competitively, need to just constantly focus on like keeping that work capacity high. Obviously, like core strength, global strength with all their lifts, have a good, good work capacity on the gymnastics, like have high level reps, but and then if you get to a level where you think you want to, like, I don't know, work on like kind of like
Specific
skills, like specific skills, that has to be then programmed in the right way instead of just going away and practicing them. If you know what I mean, like
into the program. Yeah.
So like for you, Bing, I think it was a case of you kind of took on more work. So you had obviously the program you were following, which was quite a lot anyway, and then you went down the one-to-one route to address your weaknesses. But you didn't slack off on anything else. You were still.
Oh no, that was just incorporated into your day-to-day training as such. Obviously, I didn't. Maybe slacked off on the lifting a little bit, purely because I over the years realised that I don't need to do as much volume of the lifting to keep the strength.
Yeah, well, you do have a lot of muscle mass.
Too much muscle mass.
Yeah, but that's true though, because like towards the end of the last few months in the lockdown, you did a max power clean, and you hadn't done any max lifts for the best part of 2 or 3 months.
I hadn't done any percentage work at all.
And you equalled your PB, didn't you?
PB.
PB,
actually,
yeah, 145.
Yeah.
The thing I guess with that is as well is that you've never really had to follow a lifting program to be that strong anyway. So even if you then don't follow another program, you're naturally just kind of like that. If you did follow a program, the numbers might be ridiculous, but it just doesn't need to be, because like we said, that's only going to get you so far, but you're going to benefit more from working on the weaknesses that would put you much further down the leaderboard than a couple of extra spaces on the lifting side.
Exactly, yeah. Like we said, the strongest person doesn't win.
It's normally one workout.
One workout lets you down.
Yeah, and I think with your lifting as well, like you kind of found yourself in a bit of a point where you could afford to drop a few places on the leaderboard really and gain, because where you were on other things, which was significantly lower, like trying to pick them back up. I think a big thing as well is obviously, like me and Tombo chatted about the difference in kind of competitive CrossFit and recreational CrossFit, and one of the big differences is intensity.
Yeah.
And I think people often do this, and I've done it as well, where like when you go down the competitive route, like you think you need to be following something special, like go do a one-to-one program, or even just go following a programming company, which is not necessarily wrong, but when you go off and start doing that on your own, like I feel like you just lose that intensity in your training, which gets you so far. So like when you then go into a competition environment, you might have been working on all these skills, but
you haven't done a ward up against someone else.
It hasn't been applied.
That extra 5% or 10% you put in when you're going head to head with somebody, you've lacked that.
Exactly, and that's where I kind of think, like sometimes, like, and it's not just in our gym, I think in a lot of CrossFit gyms, I was chatting to James about it, was like in like the classes for some reason get a bit of a bad rap, like where it's like, I'm at this level now, I should come away from the classes. And like I know the classes is a very generic program because it needs to be suited to everyone, but the one thing the classes have is intensity. When you got 15, 16 people like throwing down, which is kind of what CrossFit was fundamentally built on, like you can't mimic that intensity on your own. Like don't get me wrong, like if you go and do a programming thing and there's 5 or 6 of you all following it at the same time, then that's the same thing. But like what are your thoughts on that kind of thing?
So I think for me it depends on the level, right? So for Bing, he needs to be hitting that intensity quite frequently because he wants to be at that level, so his body can take it. He prioritises his training over most other things. So family time, obviously work and training, those 3 things. Those 3 things are really important to Bing. So everything outside of those 2 things kind of gets pushed away, like a few beers now and again, obviously. But the majority of the time is spent either training or with his family or minimal time at work. So he's got the time.
Very minimal.
I don't know if work's listening to this.
They won't be.
Mate, I think most people thought this was your job.
So you've got time to dedicate to your training, to your recovery, and that's so important when you're following a program as well. Intensity is great and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of people don't recover enough, even like following the best program. They don't put enough attention into their recovery. So if they want to compete and go to a higher level, like exactly like you said, people are training like they're at the top 1%, but they haven't got the recovery nailed down. They haven't like looked at their food,
not doing everything else.
They haven't looked at everything out. They haven't got capacity to add lots of intensity or add lots of work to their
You can have the
regime.
best training program in the world, but if you're not recovering properly,
it's pointless.
It's a waste of time.
Exactly.
It's because we don't see it though. I mean, all when we see all the top athletes that we all like, people aspire to be on Instagram, we see all their highlight reels of like them hitting a sick lift or doing a cool complex, but you don't see what they're doing
Don't
outside
say
of the gym.
meals
You
that
know,
they miss, the family birthday
exactly.
they go to, the booze that they're not drinking when everyone else is. Like,
exactly.
that's so important. So for being like, he lines himself up so that he can smash himself in training and then recover from it. Like a lot of people don't have that.
I didn't do that very well the other Friday when I went out for 2 pints and ended up being 6 o'clock the next morning because I'd had 10 pints instead of the 2.
That's what I'm telling your coach,
lightweight.
I'm telling your coach. But so like I think for the majority of people, if they do want to do a competition, they very much need to periodise it, like the build up to that.
Yeah.
That's when they need to start dialing in their intensity and building up. For a lot of people who haven't got their recovery sorted and they're working full time, that kind of stuff, like that level of intensity, that consistently, if they're doing 5 or 6 training sessions a week, that's too much for them to do.
Yeah.
So
I also
think that's important.
On that, where you mentioned about recovery, I think so. When we started, I said what makes a good CrossFitter, competitive CrossFitter, and one of the things you said was consistency. If you don't have good recovery, you lose the ability to be consistent, and I think that's really important. So like, I remember like, you know, back in the day, like when we all first started looking at kind of online programs, like you'd find like Comp Train, which was the Ben Bergeron one, and everyone would just follow the regional. It was like split into two. It was like regional level and open level, and everyone followed the regional one.
Follow the regional one. Fine.
Even though like you're not a regional level.
I would pick out all the ones I was good at, and then all the ones with a heavier barbell than 60 kilos. I was like, that's
But you would do that, and like you wouldn't understand how to scale it correctly because you're just following it.
You lose the stimulus of the workout.
So there'll be something in there like 5 rounds for time, 10 power cleans at 80, 10 bar over burpees, or something like that. And say your max clean's 100, you could do 80. So you would try and do 80, and then just absolutely bury yourself, and then you're messed up for days. So you can't come in and do like you can't gain that consistency. And I think, like you say, like that kind of all those like really important things, which they're not minor details. They're important, like recovery, sleep, nutrition, all those things, they matter. And especially when you're following a really tough program, which a lot of people try and do.
I was guilty of that for a long time.
So was I.
You do that, don't you? Because you're like, I want to feel like I've smashed myself in training because then I know I'm getting better. But like, as you get older and as you learn more about training yourself and how it feels to train and what you want to do long term, I always want to do competitions. I want to be able to go to a competition with you guys, probably not individual necessarily, because I haven't got the time to commit. I don't want to push myself as much as I could. I can't push myself like I did when I was 24, like compared to now. It's a big difference. I haven't got the drive to do that. Whereas in a team, I want to be able to rock up and know, okay, I've got a comp in 8 weeks. Okay, let's scale up the volume, let's scale up the intensity as I get closer to it, have a little deload, and then get ready for the comp. I like the idea of being able to do that, and I can set myself enough time aside each week to be able to do that. Anything more than that, like I'd have to scale back on something else, and it's just about priorities, I guess. But which is I find interesting.
I think go back to the nutrition side of stuff. When you've followed something that's a nutrition program, a plan or whatever, that's designed for performance based, you kind of start understanding it a bit more, because I'm sure we're all guilty of just thinking, I can eat this, just going night before a comp, let me just go to smash a massive Nando's. I think that was the best thing to do.
Yeah, we always used to have a Nando's.
Still will.
We still will. I mean,
that's not going to change.
You look at it, actually,
there are better ways.
There are much better ways to be. You should just keep eating exactly the same as you are, following a nutrition plan. Just don't do anything.
Yeah, because really, with the amount of volume of training like we got to do it wasn't much. It wasn't really less than what you would do in a competition weekend. But for whatever reason, when a competition weekend came around, you were like,
I'll go have a boneless platter at Nando's, and it's just like thousands and thousands of calories of food that you didn't actually need.
I remember we went to one. It was a training day or something like that, and we was looking for some people from another gym, and I had a whole chicken.
Your mate Spence?
I think Spence was there. Yeah. Hi Spence, if you're watching. And I had a whole chicken, and you all were like, "I'll get medium." Like one of you got hot or whatever, and I was like, "Mate, I need to go big on this." So I got an extra hot whole chicken. I've never had it before. I think I've only had a medium before, and I was like, I got this. Awful. Horrendous. Worst meal of my life.
So you brought up a good point there, Matty, where you were saying about, you mentioned in a way about like training to smash yourself.
Yeah.
And like I think this is quite important, because I think a lot of people do this, and not just from the competitive point of view, like from the recreational point of view. Like they train for like a kind of a feeling,
to feel tired, basically. Yeah.
You'd have people come away. Like I've had people come away from workouts before, like where they're not absolutely fucked, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't feel like a lot of workout.
Yeah.
And like, it's the same from the competitive realm, I think, where sometimes people are guilty of thinking, I just need to smash myself. So it's like training for a feel as opposed to like a result kind of thing. Like training should always have a purpose, and it should have like, well, training for competition should always have a purpose, but it should be like a global thing. So like looking at a longer picture.
Exactly,
So like, you know, when we do weightlifting work within a training program, that's why we'll do percentages, and that's why sometimes you can go as low as 65-70%. You do a session on that and it won't smash you. You won't come away thinking, oh, I'm messed up, but you know, you've hit some good lifts, worked on dialing in your technique. And like, I think that's an important thing, like where if you are going down the competitive route, you need to try and come away from that feeling of being like,
associating being broken after a workout with having a good workout.
I love the days where I'm not broken. They don't come.
What's that? Sorry, Zoe?
I love the sessions where I'm not broken. There's so many sessions you do, like what I do now, half of them you do feel broken, but there's the ones that you don't, and it's like, you know they're beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's taken you that long to get to understand that's the point. But again, because your goal is always, I want to compete at the highest level that I physically can with the amount of resources that I'm putting into it, basically. So you're always going to want to compete at a semi-high level. And so you prioritise that. So your training kind of reflects that, I guess. So you are going to feel, that's going to be a byproduct. It's not the goal, but it's definitely a byproduct for sure.
You've got to have them sessions where you do feel smashed, but you also need them sessions that you don't feel smashed, but you're still putting the work in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like,
I think it comes down to like stimulus. Like when you're doing certain workouts, you're trying to train like a certain energy system. Like especially once you're training like competitively, it's not necessarily always about, as we touched upon, smashing yourself. You know, you could be training at certain intensities or heart rates. I mean, this is if you're getting really, really technical. Whereas like in the past, I've had members saying, oh, you know, but if I lift really heavy, like in a workout, it's more beneficial. But I'm like, well, as we've touched upon, like if we did a workout, you said 10 power cleans, 10 power burpees. If my max clean is 140 and yours is just saying for argument's sake, hey, far off, mate. And your max is 100. That 80 kilos is going to feel completely different. Once you finish a workout, we've got completely different stimuluses out of it.
Yeah, and like you say, energy systems is essentially, well, in my opinion, it's dictated by duration.
Yeah.
So like, which I think is pretty true, is that, so like, you know, use that workout for example. If we both did it on 80 and your max was 140 and my max was 100, it could take you, say, like 7 to 8 minutes. It could take me 20 minutes, and the workouts now all of a sudden they're just completely different. And like the whole point of a particular workout is to train an energy system.
Yeah.
And I think like I don't really see it as much anymore, but there were times when people would always want to scale up, but by scaling up the weight.
Yeah.
So they'll do a workout like where I don't know, a good example is where, like, with a super light barbell, we could do like Randy, for example. So 75 power snatches, like what's that, like 35 kilos.
Yeah.
So that's super light, and the idea of that workout is to just grip and rip and go for it and try and go unbroken.
Mate, your little hands aren't keeping hold of that bar for 75 reps.
Who are you talking to?
You, mate.
That's why Bing does it on the ladies.
I've been working on my grip back.
Good.
But really, like that workout at a top level, it wants to be taking people, say, like 2 to 4 minutes or something like that. And you know, in the past, people will be like, "Oh, 35 kilos is really light, so I'll do it. Either do it at 40
you probably could actually,
or do it at 45."
You could probably just about snatch that, couldn't you?
Helpful one.
But you know, if that workout's taking you, say, like more than 6 or 7 minutes, you would have been better off lowering the weight and nailing that stimulus. And I think, don't get me wrong, there is a time and a place to like put a bit more weight on the bar to with the aim of getting stronger. But unless you're hitting those desired stimuluses with regards to the duration of the workout, like
I think also what's really important, and I'm looking forward to when classes open up again, is to be led, so you've got some good information, so members can have that information from the coaches and then telling that and explaining the stimulus of every workout. Because without that, it gets lost. And like at the moment, people see stuff on Instagram, for example, so they'll see CrossFit posted things or training companies posted things, and they'll just see big workouts with heavy weights, and they'll see athletes looking ripped, and they'll look at the workouts and be like, if I want to look like that or perform like that, I need to be doing those workouts, without understanding, I guess, the process behind it. And that's when you've got someone it's our responsibility, I guess, to explain that and
you do
give
see
them
on
the information instead
social
of
media these days that they'll post a workout of the week type thing, and it'll be a savage workout.
yeah.
And it'll be long. People go, that was really good, that workout. But then there'll be another workout that gets posted. This is like a 3 or 4 minute workout, and no one blinks an eyelid at that because it's just a 3 or 4 minute workout. There's whatever, anyone can do that. One that looks a bit jazzy and it's like nice long thing. Everyone's like, I'll do that one. It's not actually. They're both beneficial in their own way.
I do think like simplicity is often overlooked with kind of programming and CrossFit.
Nothing worse than a couplet.
Yeah, well, 21:59. Like Fran, like when we all did our level 1s, you did Fran, which was like 21:59 thrusters and pull-ups. Gop it.
Yeah,
I don't care how fit you are. It's savage, and you're doing it in about kind of 2 to 4 minutes again, and but.
7
scale. But I do think people are often guilty of just kind of the more is better approach with CrossFit. So workouts now tend to be like really long, or they'll have loads of stuff in.
Yeah.
When sometimes you could do a 5-rounder of 10 burpees, 10 pull-ups, just as quick as you can, and that'd just be just as savage as something I don't know.
Again, that's
something
really.
different,
I think that then comes down to the goal and the level of athlete as well. Definitely, because obviously something like that is great for someone of a certain level who might want to do a competition, and then for Bing, the amount of volume that he's going to require, mainly because of his training age, I guess. He's been training so long, so that isn't going to be enough of a stimulus for his body to be like, oh, okay. On its own, it will be, but then you have to obviously put the pieces around it to make that scale that up, basically.
Yeah.
So it completely depends, I guess, on your training age and what you want out of training as well.
But equally, two of the open workouts were couplets, weren't they? You had wall walks and double unders, and then you had dumbbell snatch and burpee box jump overs.
Yeah.
I think you have to. I do think that kind of simple stuff is really important to hit. You don't always have to do it, and I think kind of the longer, snazzy stuff, getting all the extra volume in, obviously that helps build the foundation to then succeed at those kind of things.
Yeah.
But if you're never doing
just the short, sharp, basic, intense stuff.
Yeah,
but you're more likely to see them in competitions. You're not really going to get a workout that's longer than 10 minutes.
Not really.
Really. It may be. I mean, if you're competing at top levels, you're going to get your long duration ones.
Yeah, but the competitions will go to
but the ones that we'll all go to, you're going to see a workout that's longer than 10 minutes.
Probably not.
Give or take. Maybe
this is why I think
expand
now,
to 12.
Obviously, the higher performance programming has gone in seasonal, whereas beforehand, say when we first started, it was just all year round.
Doing intense stuff, smashing yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's a lot more,
kind of sports science has crept into CrossFit a lot more over the last few years, and you can see that with the programming and the way people describe it, and like you say, it's seasonal, often based around the open or whatever competition that particular programming group is focusing on. But that's very important. So we briefly mentioned before, Matty, about the importance of doing strict pull-ups, right? And this is something I kind of want to bring into, and not just strict pull-ups, but this is kind of a conversation I want to have about competitive programming. And I think, and I've done it, and I mentioned this about when I got injured, and the cause of getting injured kind of thing was a lot of people, when they see the competitive side of CrossFit, the sport of CrossFit, they almost sprint before they can
want
jog.
To jump ahead to the front, see the stuff that looks really good.
Exactly, and I think a good example of that is a pull-up. Well, and so you'll have a lot of people doing kipping pull-ups before they can do strict pull-ups, for example, and things like that. And what are your thoughts on that? The importance of, even if you want to be competitive, about just having solid foundations.
Yeah, I think it's the most important. I do think it's really important. The hard thing with the pull-up, for example, is that it's really hard. It's really, really tough. So it puts people off straight away, because getting a pull-up, you can't just get a pull-up. You can't
and also you can either do one or you can't. And
it's like a 1 rep max, right? If you can't ever do a pull-up, then all of a sudden you're asking yourself to go from nothing to benching your body weight. Essentially, it's like if you want to use that as an example, you don't just start at nothing and then go to 80. You can just build it up.
Yeah.
So it's very hard going like that. So I think that puts people off a lot. The idea that it's going to take ages does feel like it's so far away.
Yeah.
But I can't stress enough how important that is, because once you get that, you don't need to train I certainly don't need to train the kipping variation as much, because I don't really do many kipping pull-ups, but I do lots of strict stuff. And then as soon as you go to do the kipping stuff, it's just easy, it's comfy. As long as you've got that movement pattern, nailed down and you practice it.
It's more comp specific, isn't it, the kipping? Like
exactly.
If you're 8 weeks out from a competition, all of a sudden it's like, right, I'm going to kip now.
Exactly, that's part of your competition prep, exactly right.
Because the reason why I mentioned pull-ups, and we spoke about this a lot of Bing as well, is that like, I think if you looked at, say, like, not so much the games level, because they're just a level above, but most people's weakness is probably in the gymnastic realm. Most people are, like, especially these days, like really good with a barbell. The conditioning and the gymnastic side of things is often trailing behind. And like, I think you made a good point, like with a pull-up, for example, as a gymnastics exercise, you can either do it or you can't. So people tend to shy away from it. Whereas with a bar, like with a clean, for example, you can either clean 140 kilos or you can clean 20 kilos. It's really metric. It's really
incremental as well. You can go up a kilo each time, can't you?
Yeah, and I think as a result of that, you tend to see a lot of people doing a lot more stuff with a bar.
Yeah.
And I see it down here as well when people do their own thing. If people spent the same amount of time and energy on their gymnastics, whatever exercise that is, as they are with a barbell, like their CrossFit level will just increase massively.
I think that does go back to like what we said at the start. Is consistency is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're following any program, if you're not consistent, you're not going to be making progress, I guess. So if there's lots of things that put people off, or it means they avoid sessions, or they don't do kind of that stuff, they don't train, then I think it's finding that sweet spot between getting them to do the stuff they don't want to do. Like Bing, you can make him do the stuff he doesn't want to do, because he knows in the bigger picture, when he goes to these comps quite regularly, he's got a chance of doing well. So every single place that he makes up is going to make quite a big difference.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on the level of competition you're looking to enter, or how set you are on being as good as you can in a competition. So for me, if I wanted to do as well as I could, I'd have to do weightlifting. I knew I'd have to do more weightlifting. We talked about me getting stronger generally, so like my back squat and all that kind of stuff. That takes, I squat quite a lot. Bing takes the piss and say I don't squat, but I do squat quite a lot. But it just takes quite a lot for me to add kilos to my lift, and like, I have to weigh up how much time do I want to spend on doing that kind of stuff to make me increase with the bar that much. Like, I'm not really that fussed if I can go to a comp and snatch 100.
Down to how much does me taking the piss annoy you, really?
Mate, you say far worse than that, so I'm not fussed. So like, how much effort am I willing to put into those things that I'm not very good at, and how much enjoyment is that going to take away from it? Would I train less often and less intensity if I had to just do that stuff, or not just do that stuff, but do more of that stuff? I probably would. I'd probably train a little bit less.
Yeah.
So I'd do more of the stuff I enjoy because I'm consistent and I just enjoy it. And if I go to a comp and I do quite well with my mates, that's enough for me.
Well, I suppose that as well, that's the beauty of doing a team comp, is that you can have a bit of a hole in the game, like, and not worry about it so much, because
true.
You got other people in the team who could pick up slack there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So I think it's very specific to kind of the level of comp that you want to do and how well you want to do, I guess. Yeah.
Tombo, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
I think like with the gymnastics, a lot of it comes down to patience. Like there's a lot more going on with gymnastic exercise. I know we're touching up on pull-ups, but like if you go onto things like muscle-ups, bar muscle-ups, handstand push-ups, there's a lot of like proprioception that needs to go on, like so like your mind and your muscles kind of connecting together. I think that kind of like digressing a little bit with the pull-up, I think it's the one gymnastics exercise. If you go to like kipping pull-ups, some people can do kipping pull-ups before they can do strict pull-ups, and that's like a gift and a curse at the same time, because like, yeah, okay, great, I can do a kipping pull-up, and I can't besides not being able to do a strict pull-up, but you're more than likely going to run into problems down the road. You might not feel it straight away, but like there will be like an injury that props up. And I think that if you just focus on dedicating some time and being patient on the foundations, then you'll reap the rewards. And people don't realise at the same time that with bodyweight exercises or gymnastics, you can do a lot more volume than you would necessarily like weightlifting. You can't weightlift every day because your body will get taxed. Whereas with gymnastics, I find that
it doesn't smash your central nervous system.
It doesn't smash your CNS as much as weights do. So you could probably find you could do more but people just don't do that. They might do one session and think, I'm going to go back to the weightlifting.
Yeah, they'll do that one session and they'll get defeated mentally because they can't do something. So then they'll go back to the weightlifting because that's something they can do, kind of thing.
So like if people just strip it back, like especially if you want to be competitive, and work on your weaknesses, then just spend more days doing gymnastics. Even if you can only do half a pull-up. If you do half a pull-up every single day or 4 or 5 times a week, where's that going to lead to? A month, 2 months down the line.
Yeah, you'll eventually get a pull-up.
You eventually get a pull-up,
and you'll get one quite quickly if you did it regularly.
It's the unglamorous stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
People see on social media people doing bar muscle-ups. Even coming to the gym, you see, a few of us doing bar muscle-ups, ring muscle-ups, all that kind of stuff. People just want to be able to do that straight away.
Yeah.
But they don't realise what the work that goes into that to get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, you joined in my cardio session last week. Half of it was holds, handstand hold against the wall for 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Ring
hollow.
support hold for 30 seconds.
Hollow hold.
hold for 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Was that all that screaming was about the wall squats?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, wall squats,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's boring, it's horrible, no one likes doing it.
But that's
building the
it was 90
foundation.
minutes, and it was a good way of getting volume in. So it was doing like 30-second hollow holds, but we did it. I can't remember how many times, but by the end of it, you're getting quite a lot of them in.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. With obviously to be a competitive CrossFitter, like we said, you can't really have any holes in your game. So if you truly want to be a competitive CrossFitter, especially going to a competition, you do need to dial in your gymnastics, and I think it's definitely dialing in those foundational things more, because you over the course of an event you're more likely to do things like a lot of pull-ups and a lot of toes to bar than you are muscle-ups. Like muscle-ups would pop up at a level, but like for most kind of box level comps,
You need to have those nailed.
You have to have those kind of basics nailed, like maybe handstand press-ups and things like that. Switching that back then, because we mentioned about like weightlifting. Weightlifting is probably more popular in CrossFit. Like so many people within CrossFit have then gone on to weightlift. What are your thoughts on, increasing your lifting? Like if someone comes to you and is like, Matty, Bing, Tombo, I want to be good at CrossFit competitions. However, my weightlifting is lacking. How should I approach this? Bing, what do you go for?
Technique to start with.
Yeah.
It depended on what level of athlete you're at. If you're a beginner, until your technique's a decent-ish level, you should be putting weight on the bar. I think all of us here are probably guilty when we first started CrossFit of just lifting heavy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And
I wish I could. I didn't. I thought I was lifting heavy.
I don't need to say it, do I? Let's be honest. If I knew what I knew now back then, I would just not put weight on the bar. It's easy to sit here and say it now.
Yeah.
It's a really hard thing to do, to stay light, but it's the best thing you could do. Stay light, work on your technique, hit rep after rep after rep, let's bang on.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that as well, like you have to obviously understand your thresholds too. Like you can't just train with a bar, for example.
No,
you do have to apply some load.
You need to, at some point you need to put some weight on the bar, so you only make progress in your technique with 60, maybe 60.
Because your technique often
changes once you get a certain point.
Exactly, it'll break down due to weight. I mean, I think people are often guilty of they don't do enough percentage work in general, and I'm not saying you necessarily have to do like 6 sets of 2 snatch at 75% or whatever, but even like in a workout, for example, like even say take Isabel, which is 30 snatches, like I think you'd be far better at just like doing that at a percentage of your max and always say like doing it at 60 or especially say if your max snatch was like below 100, 60 kilos is big for that, right? So you'd be better off just like, I don't know, maybe using 100 as a benchmark and being like, all right, I'll do Isabel at 60%. Like, and I feel like someone would benefit more long term from doing things like that.
That depends on whether you're looking at getting a workout out of it or whether you're actually working percentages.
Yeah.
In a sense, depending on whether you're doing that as a weightlifting program. Or
that's true.
A workout.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's often overlooked because, like, you people will do workouts with like loads of like weightlifting lifts in, and they'll increase the weight as they go, and they'll build to failure or something like that. But they don't get as many successful lifts in as they would if they kind of kept it within a range. Yeah. Like when you do your Thursday programming, it'll be like between say, 1 to 3 reps between this range, right?
Yeah, or sensible.
Yeah, whereas I think people are often guilty of just constantly building up to a max. So like, I know, like on a Thursday, you'll be like, 30 rounds for time, 1 barbell lift, 2 gymnastics movements, 3, whatever. If you fail on the 16th rep because you've gone too heavy, and then fail a couple more times and then bring it back down, like, you've just missed the chance to get like 30 good reps in, if you know what I mean.
If you've peaked at 16 on 30, you've definitely gone too heavy.
Exactly, and I think that's sometimes missing with weightlifting in CrossFit, is that people just build up and fail. Whereas, like, don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for that, like, especially like in a competition, like, you need to push the boundaries and see what you can get. But people, I think, often just overlook the value of staying at around 70, 75, 80% and just hitting them numbers on a consistent
100%.
basis. And like, I firmly believe you could probably do that all year round, not really go higher, and you'll get.
Then you'll hit a PB
you'll get
when
stronger.
the time's
You'll
right.
hit a PB when the time is right.
Yeah, definitely. It's so easy to look at your program and say, I got 5 threes at snatches at 85% today, and then you hit you hit these, and then that's feeling good today. I'm just going to chuck a bit more weight on. I'll just put a bit more weight on. That one felt good, and then every day, all of a sudden, or every week, you're then working to a max.
Yeah.
And not hitting
the valuable reps.
Getting the valuable reps that you should be getting. So you've got
that rep quality.
You've got to stick to, if you are following a program and someone says you're doing this percentage, there's a reason why you're doing it at that percentage. It's not just there's science behind it. It's not just a case of we're just putting them numbers down on a bit of paper.
Or hit 8 out of 10 effort or 9 out of 10 effort on 7 out of 10. Whatever you're doing.
There's a reason why you're doing it at 80% and at 85%.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, because in programming sometimes you'll see, I don't know, build up to a heavy single for the day, and like that gives, especially like say in a class environment, that gives people like a lot of scope to shoot for that 1 rep max. Because if they're lifting and as Bing pointed out, and it's feeling good, they'll think, all right, I'm going to go for my 1 rep max. So they do it. But then if that comes up again next week, they think, oh right, I want to try and better that. People always think that like,
they should be doing more.
And each week they can go up as well, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
And like 1 rep maxes are 1 rep maxes for a reason. Like you hit that number like once in a blue moon. You're not going to be hitting that number every single week, and you can't expect, even if you do hit it 1 week, you can't expect to hit it the next week or better it. Like that's just not. It's just not going to happen. So like, percentage work does have it. Like I think it's perfect. It has its place rather than just a generic build up to a 1 rep max, or a heavy single, or a 2 rep max. I think there's just too much scope there.
Yeah. I think like it's good to do that kind of stuff, like to have a base to work from. Mm-hmm. Like, so you need to, like, you kind of need to know your top end numbers in order to obviously do that percentage work. So it's important to build it to a free, like, I don't know, say if you're doing a program that's based off your 3 rep max, you need to know what your 3 rep max is.
Yeah, but
kind of thing.
Because I mean, you're doing, was it Wednesdays 3 rep max overhead press?
Yeah, I did that a couple of weeks ago, and we're doing.
But now you're doing percentage work based off of that. That's great.
Yeah,
but if it's just build up to a 3 rep max every single week, it's kind of like, well.
Yeah, okay. You're not getting the getting the kind of foundational.
You're not also you're not getting the reps in at set weights to build anything more either.
Yeah.
You need to do X amount of reps.
Yeah, that's testing, not training, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just testing every week. So you basically you might do 1 or 2 reps at lower weights, and all of a sudden you end up doing like 6 reps in total. Whereas actually, really, you should be doing 15 reps at slightly lower,
percentage work,
building up.
Yeah.
The foundations of that, really.
Yeah,
it's the same with your gymnastics, really, isn't it? It's just no different. You need to build the foundations. Which building your foundations of weightlifting is just doing your lower percentage work.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matty's hit the nail on the head perfectly there. I think people are always guilty of wanting to test their strength rather than wanting to train it. And that's where percentage work kind of comes in.
I think that's true about CrossFit in general. Like you train to improve your fitness, not test your fitness. And like I think people are often guilty of just like constantly wanting to be like a whiteboard warrior, put up a good time, or lift as heavy as they can all the time, instead of like just being consistent, like Matty brought up at the start, but constantly getting that training in on a consistent basis, and you'll just see like huge improvements.
I think it's funny because everything we've just talked through, we did all of that at the start for however many years. Like we do all of it.
Yeah, the squat and
I'd probably still do it now.
That's what we did. Like,
obviously, there's always going to be if you're doing CrossFit, there's always the competitive part of you.
Yeah, and that's important. But I think it's knowing.
Yeah, without doubt.
It's knowing
bigger picture stuff.
Yeah, and it's also important, and I think we could kind of touch on the mentality aspect a little bit. Like, it's okay that like if me and you were doing 50 burpees for time, you'd beat me. Like that, but like I'll kind of go into mindset like I want to beat Matty, but it's okay not beating you, like because you can only do what you can do. And it'd be the same as I did a lift with you. And I think like I often see people beat themselves up because they're trying to beat people, but it's that.
I think the thing to do is if you're training with somebody, anybody, because at the end of the day, you're as good as you are, and you always want to make yourself better. Like your training partner could change, people in the gym would change, people in a competition might change. So you can never pit yourself against other people. But if you're against someone in a training session, just use it to get some intensity, to push yourself, so you get the most out of it. That way you're going to train and you're going to get better. It's the only way, training with other people, unless you're head to head and you're going to the semi-final and you're both in the same category, it doesn't matter.
No.
It makes no difference.
Yeah, I think
how you are compared to another person.
Definitely right there. Like I use that burpee analogy. It's almost like I should like finish those 50 burpees and think, fuck, like Matty beat me, but I went much harder than I would have done
on my own.
Because I did it with Matty and he set a pace or whatever.
Exactly.
And I think that's important. But I think it's important for people to recognise that and never kind of, because I definitely see that a lot. Like people will compare themselves to other people in the gym, or they'll get beat up because someone's beating them in a workout. When really you just kind of got to be like, you know what, you are your own competition.
Yeah.
And like
I think that's the hardest thing though, isn't it?
It's
not
tough.
comparing yourself. Like everyone.
And we're all quite competitive. Well, apart from Tombo, you're not really that competitive, are you?
Depends on what it is. Not CrossFit.
No.
Drinking.
I'll win.
Not
right now, to be fair. Not right now.
You'll get pissed on a Vimto at the minute. Well, so like, because I want to kind of bring that in slightly with mentality. So like, obviously, Bing, you're probably the most like seasoned competitor here, and like your competitive career has obviously grown. Like you've got better as you've done it. Like, how is your like mentality going into one, training, and two, competitions kind of developed? Because I think it's important, because obviously we've got a few guys here who like doing competitions at whatever level, and having a certain mentality will obviously help lead to success or failure. Like, how's your kind of mentality developed?
In training, I think being realising that you do have to push yourself. I think years ago it was just smash yourself every day.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot more a sort of a experience sort of to you to be, I don't know the word.
Like holistic.
Objective. Like looking at your.
Yeah, just sort of, it's certain training sessions have a certain goal. Basically, they're not always to smash yourself. There's a reason why you're doing certain work. Last week's assault bike sprints, it was to smash yourself. It was push hard. Other sessions, cardio sessions, they're a moving sort of session, work in different ways. On them sessions where you push yourself, some days it's easy to come in and just be, oh, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah.
But everyone else, you see it on social media, everyone else is absolutely smashing themselves on them sessions. You've got to be in the mind frame that you've got to push.
Yeah.
Well, that's the ones they've posted though. The good
the ones they've posted, but they're still doing that work. So
yeah, they are.
You've got a mentality-wise, it's easy to slack off in some sessions. I mean, back when I was training in the barn, there was days when I was training there on my own. It was easy for me to slack off, but in your head, you were training for the open. It was like you have to push.
Yeah.
But there's also certain times when you didn't need to push. It was more of a session where it was like, okay, this is more of a recovery session, or you can slack off a little bit and that kind of thing. Just being more sensible about your training, I think.
And how would you say like approach competition? Like you compare it to like what kind of pressures do you put on yourself?
I would put quite a lot of pressure on myself, to be honest.
Podium or nothing.
I think when you're competitive, you do have a goal in your head. As much as, even in the open, as much as you're like, oh, I'll be happy with this place.
To finish all 5 would be achievement.
That's why
once.
That's why he finished this year, because it was only 3.
Mate, you said Bing was the most seasoned competitor, mate. He hasn't finished an open yet. I've got him every time on that.
Well, to be fair, he didn't even finish the 3-week one because he broke his foot.
But no, it's always part of you is thinking, no, you know what, it'd be good if I could be this place though. Although I've got a sensible goal, you're always like, I just want to, it'd be great to be in the top 100, say, or it'd be great to be in this. And I think if you're competitive, you do put quite a pressure on yourself to do that.
Hey, you're investing a lot of time and effort into this thing.
Exactly.
Like, if you don't, you have to be that mindset to do it at the level you do now. Like we said, the pool is getting bigger, the athletes are getting better. You have to want it. You have to have the drive.
Yeah. If you go into it with I'm not that fussed mentality. Oh, if I qualify type thing for a competition, and you've got to question
Yeah,
why
at
you're
that
doing it
level.
really at that level, because
Yeah.
you put that much effort, time and effort into it. Then if you're not, fulfilling your potential as such,
Yeah.
then you question, is it worth the time and effort to do it? So so mentally you do put a lot of pressure on yourself.
I'd like to add to that as well about I think you should only worry about the things you can control though. Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
like I think it's important to put pressure on yourself. Because I think pressure's good to compete and to perform your best and perform well. But like I don't know, say if a max snatch came up in a competition, it'd be pointless you going into that competition saying, oh, you know what, I really need to hit 135 when your best snatch is 120 kind of thing. So like it's having that like realization of what your limits are and what your achievements are, and just worry about what you can control. And I think that will help you perform better generally instead of worrying about things you can't control, or like things you can't do.
You can only push yourself as long as you've given your 100%, and in that workout you've gone for it as hard as you can. You had nothing left to give. Your score is your score. Whatever score other people get, you can't control that.
Yeah.
If that's you've gone 100%.
Also, I think another thing is it being relative to where you're at now as well. So say you just did weightlifting, you were getting really strong, and then you recognise that actually to progress, I need to just knock that on the head for a little bit, or dial it back down and work on my gymnastics and work on the thing. If you've got 5 workouts in the competition and one of those is the max lift and your PB is up 130 snatch, like Zach said or whatever,
But you haven't lifted.
but you hit 120 and you're happy with that, but all the other 4 workouts you've smashed the gymnastics, like you've done a biggest unbroken set of pull-ups, or you did a burpee box over workout way faster than you would have done a year ago because you've worked on that. Like, that's being fair on yourself and being like, do you know what? Although it wasn't my PB snatch, I could have hit more if I was doing more weightlifting. All these other things have come on as a result. And so, being objective and being able to step back and look at it is quite a skill. It's a real skill.
To analyse your overall performance throughout the whole.
Yeah.
Like you say, the open throughout the 5 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it been out, and not just look at one workout and say, I had a bad one there, but actually the other 2 weeks I did really well.
Yeah, and your overall
And
position.
your overall positions,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's definitely something to look at.
So, Matty, are you signed up to the European Championships?
No, I'm not actually at the moment.
Are you got it?
Is it a team event? No, the individual one.
I mean, I'm not even signed up at the minute, but
Are you not?
no.
Bingo's gonna do it.
Is he?
He always does it.
Yeah,
Like,
he is
he
gonna
always
do
signs.
I've got to have a chat with the coach first. See where his guidance
After
is
I've
going.
seen Lloyd do that burpee rowing thing, I was like, he did not look in a good place. So I was like, I don't know about that.
On that, have you
Well,
seen
have the qualifiers come out for it then?
Yeah,
We're ready?
have you seen the top score so far in that?
What is it?
143 burpees. That Lazar Dukic, is it?
Oh.
Slovakian bloke.
Bloody
Games
hell.
athlete.
What's that, like 12 minutes? 13
Yeah,
minutes?
12 minutes.
12 was 144, isn't it?
So for those of you who don't know, I know there's like loads of the big audience out in America, and they probably don't know what the European Championships is, but workout 1 got released, and it's a 12-minute EMOM of 10. Well, for lads it's 10 calories, for girls it's 7 calories, and then the remaining time do as many burpees over the row as you can, and then your score is your max burpees.
Yeah.
Is that right? So Bingo actually did this at the European Championships. What did you get? 118?
117.
117.
Just short of 10.
Just short of 10. And we watched one of the members, Lloyd, do it the other day. Poor lad, he just died. I hope you're listening to this. I sent you a link. But this, the reason why I asked Matt is because word on the street is you're quite good at burpees, and I reckon. But
Not anymore,
you've
mate.
been
That
known
was a
to.
long
When
time ago.
was the last time you did a burpee?
A long time ago, mate. I've done a few burpee box overs, but like sets of 3.
You have been known
Steady
to
on.
crumble on the rower though.
Yeah, that was in the open, wasn't it? Yeah, awful.
You stopped with 2 calories left. Was
No,
it?
it wasn't 2. It was one of the open workouts, and then there was a big. You could partition it up however you wanted. We had a game plan. Did the muscle ups, did the wall balls, did a set of calories at the start, and I was like, I just got a big set of rowing at the end, so I don't have to keep transitioning, getting on and off. I don't know. I had like 40 odd calories a night or whatever it was, and then there's like 24 to go or something. I just literally stopped. And
No, it was like less. It was like 8 left.
Was it?
It was like
No.
it was like 8. Because I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mate, I was dying. That was the worst I've heard. Actually, no. Apart from the snatches and the Bari burpee one last
That was
year.
hideous.
Those 2 workouts, qualifiers are awful. I know how much they hurt because he's just competitive, so you want to do well.
I think you should. I think you should do it because it'd just be cool to see you suffer. And like it'd just be cool to see Bingo do it against someone as well. Try and get as many people to do it as possible. I mean, Bingo, you're signing up. You speak to your coach, but
probably.
your coach is signed up now. So,
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what score he's got.
So before we started this podcast, Matty put an Instagram post out about questions, and it's funny you just said that about your worst workout, because I think was the first question, what was your worst workout you've ever done? Or,
worst CrossFit workouts from Grace.
So T, we'll start with you, mate. What's your worst workout you've ever done?
Worst workout. Which one isn't? Like, I don't know.
Is it in the hospital last? I don't know. Before we move on to this answer, you told
swim.
me
It's got to be a swim.
It's probably a swim. But you told me before about.
That's a good shout. That's a good shout.
We talked about your hospitalisation in the last podcast, but you left something out. Right? What happened when they moved you from one ward to the other?
So I got moved from what's called like the West Wing into like, I can't remember the name of the other wing that I got moved to, but I was getting pushed in my bed, and as I entered like the new ward, I was like greeted with like a guard of honour, like so I got like a load of nurses just like clapping for me, just like hey, and I was just kind of like, what the, like, what's going on here?
What did you
say? There was one nurse, I'm not sure where she was from, she was like Eastern Bloc, somewhere that way. She was like, oh, welcome, you know, like, we've been expecting you, you're like the king of Ghana, da, 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 da. And I was kind of like,
where are you from?
Well, I'm from Zambia, but like thanks, yeah.
Oh mate, sorry, I just had to throw that in.
But yeah, I mean, Matty's probably just reminded me, it was probably a swimming workout. How many years ago was it? Box Rocks,
probably like 2015.
Yeah, 2015 Box Rocks. It was a team competition.
Can I explain it?
Yeah, you can explain it better.
This was so there was two teams in. So our team were in the heat after yours, and the workout was everyone had to do a 100-meter swim in a 50-meter pool, and then the workout finished with like press ups and stuff like that.
And there were two pools, right? There was like,
yeah, well, it was a 50-meter pool with like a separator in the middle, like a little island.
Yeah.
So
there's definitely a technical term for that. It's not an island.
Probably, yeah.
I think it's called a boom. Boom. There we go.
What's it called?
A boom.
A boom. All right. Okay. So it was a 50-meter pool with a boom in the middle. It looked like an island. But so basically, what everyone had to do was in pairs. You had to jump in the water, swim 25 meters, climb onto the boom, jump back in the water, swim another 25 meters, and then do it back. So Tombo jumps in the water. Looked pretty legit. Little front crawl going on.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised with the first 25 meters. Get out.
So it did the first 50 meters, and
you're all right.
I was in a world of pain, man.
Mate, 50 meters is a long way.
The first 50 meters,
quite long.
And if I remember correctly, it didn't have to, because you went in pairs, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't have to be the same pair that went.
Yeah.
But the way that me and my team did it was that we would go in the same pairs, and I went last. I can't remember who I was paired up with. And then, as soon as we got to the end, that second round came round like super quick.
So basically, if you went first, you got longer rest.
Yeah, so you went first, you got a longer rest.
So you jumped in, the next 25 metres, you looked like you're struggling.
So like, yeah, I did like the next 25 metres, got to the boom, and like I was seeing stars. And like, I mean, I wish someone filmed it, because it felt like I dived in, but I probably I just fell in.
It was a belly flop.
Yeah.
That fourth little. Oh mate, you literally just like, it's like your legs were lower than your upper body, and you like just hit the water, and you did a bit of a. It's difficult to explain, but a few little turns, arms flying over, and then you just stopped and grabbed the side and started pulling yourself along the side.
Yeah, I was pulling myself along the side, and like. It was such a strange feeling when you just have nothing.
I remember
like,
there was a team next to us like, look at him over there, he's cheating. He's pulling himself along the pool. No,
he's just trying not to die.
Like, I'm trying to survive here, you know.
Nick turned around and said, "He's fucking dying, mate."
There was a lot of people there though. You were along that side, and there was so many spectators. It was full, and then our side was waiting for the next heat to go. So there was a lot of people there. Mate.
I couldn't see them. They
were all like, "Look at that guy," and I was like, "Fuck, that's Tombo."
I just remember afterwards, it was like, we were walking. You're like, God, it was lucky we were at the side, because if you were in
That's fuzz in the middle. Yeah, someone would have had to.
I wish
grab one of those
I'd love
poles.
it if a lifeguard had jumping after you.
But the worst thing, that wasn't the end of the workout, was it? Because there was like an AMRAP. Once you've done your 100 meters, there's like an AMRAP of press ups.
Yeah.
So like I think I was paired up with Dan, and if he didn't push me, I would have just quit the whole time. I would have quit that workout for sure. But
Bingo, what's your worst workout, man?
I mean, I've done plenty of nasty workouts.
Yeah.
What is one? I mean, people are just going to think it was the 5k run at the British Championships.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. As you can
Did you
hear,
come last?
Matty's not quite.
How many?
Third last?
Oh, that's not too bad.
I should have just done a big bron and walked.
Yeah, you should have done.
It's got to be that, or the worm workout, the Filthy 150. It was 21:15.9, worm thrusters, burpees over the worm, but in between each movement it was a lunge of like 10-metre lunge, and then 21 at the end as well.
Cool.
21:15.9, 21, and their time cap was supposed to be 15 minutes. They didn't tell us before the workout they'd extended it to 17,
Yeah.
so the clock could hit 15 minutes, and we were expecting to stop, and it was like, no, you've got 2 more minutes to go. Oh my god, yeah, just.
What about you, Matty? Worst workout?
I reckon that 400 metre run of the British Champs, to be fair, was the most embarrassing.
We could post a picture along with the advert for this.
That was terrible. But we all didn't do too well on that one, did we? So.
See,
I
like,
don't know, worst workout.
What position did you come in the 400 metre
I was
run?
dead last, mate. I was
by about 8 seconds.
I was that far behind.
in a 1
the
minute
DJ turned
workout.
the music off because he thought everyone in the heat had finished and lined up the next team. And I was coming around the back straight. I thought about diving into the crowd and just like sneaking off so I didn't have to cross the finish line. Everyone was like, it's the only competition my parents had come to watch as well. My dad never lets me live it down. Awful.
Yeah, so I think my the worst I felt in a workout was it's always the simpler ones for me. So like the 2K row we did at Inferno as a pair, just as a pair, like 2K as fast as you can, just absolutely send it. We were doing like minute splits.
To be fair, now you're saying these workouts, there's a handful of workouts that stick in my mind that I've felt so ill afterwards.
Yeah. That one, and also the stretcher
run.
Stretcher race we did at the first box rocks.
Yeah.
It was a 1 kilometre stretcher
Right.
race. Oh mate, you
no,
pulled out work last minute.
Yeah, I'd worked that weekend. Yeah,
that was probably like our first big team comp, wasn't it?
Oh, that was.
And I was with Bestie and Jace.
Jace, yeah.
And like it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. They set a pace, like we did a K in 7 minutes with a stretcher. It was absolutely savage. But
Carrying
yeah,
someone as well.
Yeah, it's always for me. It was always those kind of workouts like that. I did one at Sid as a team where it was an eliminator. So it was like 4 miles, but after the 3 laps after the first 3 laps of the 400 metre track, the back 5 got eliminated, and you just went into that.
Was that the one Dan Reeder did as well?
Yeah, Dan.
And he started strong.
Yeah, he started
did a
really
Dan
strong.
Reeder.
Yeah, that's where the did a Dan Reeder came from.
Yeah.
All right, Matty. Next question, mate. What was the award?
Next question.
just on that workout, that calorie assault bike row run
Oh yeah,
at the Inferno.
that was savage as well.
That was brutal. I think we both laid on our backs with our feet up in the air for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably like the worst like my legs have ever felt doing something.
How did you start CrossFit?
I just found it online. I think found the CrossFit Games. We started doing it here actually at the Park Club.
You told me about it.
Yeah, likewise.
I think I got Matty into it through showing you Rob Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like a strongman guy who did CrossFit.
Yeah, that was it.
And then obviously Tombo worked here as well, so we just did CrossFit together.
I remember
What
the
we thought
first
was
time.
CrossFit.
I remember because you guys had just started it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time you got me to do Grace. Do you remember that?
Nah, man. I don't,
So like you boys were like, oh, you should do this workout called Grace. I was like, oh, what is it? It was like, oh, 30 clean and jerks for time with 60 kilos. And yeah, I did it, and I think it took me like 4 minutes or something like that. And then I remember going up to the mezzanine to the staff room. And I just like laid down.
Hide out the way.
I literally just got like a row of chairs and just laid down on it for like
Yeah.
10 minutes. I was absolutely fucked. Just like, what just happened?
what about you, Ben? Because you obviously we all kind of found it the same way because we were together, but
Yeah, so
we were
the owner of the old gym used to play rugby where I played, and he mentioned this starting up this gym. You should join, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Never thought another word about it, and then my brother went. He decided he was for some reason was going to give it a go. He knew about it from YouTube and stuff like that, and he said, oh, you should just do a free taster or something. You'll enjoy it. And then I saw another mate of mine who joined Monk. He went to the free taster and said, oh, no, I reckon you'll really enjoy it. So of course people start getting involved and think, yeah, well, go on then. I'll give it a go. Give it a go.
Big lad didn't want to get FOMO.
Yeah, exactly.
fear
Well,
of
I got
missing
myself
out.
involved in this, and then did a bit of an induction with Tombo. Deadlifted about 200 in the first session.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and then ever since that, also we had quite a group of us who took to it, and obviously I'd done a little bit of Olympic weightlifting before, and at that point there was a few people that knew each other there, and it started getting competitive, and
Yeah, it was a good crowd.
It was a good crowd then, and every night you'd go look forward to just smashing yourself.
Yeah.
Workout, I think
My
one
first-
of the first workouts was like a tank or something like that, and
Yeah,
something like that.
Had a bear complex here.
Yeah,
that was
some hideous.
more awful, that workout, or my vest and big grey trackies that I did workouts in.
Really?
I don't know what was worse, yeah.
Really?
Running trainers as well.
Classics.
Your Barcelona football shorts.
Used to wear leggings underneath.
Never watched football in my life had this short. My first memory of you, mate, though, was you asked us to asked me to take the rugby lads through like a strongman circuit with tyres and the stones. We had the Rob Orlando stones and stuff like that. And Bing came along, and there was a yoke and that kind of stuff. And they were all obviously strong rugby lads. And I was demonstrating with the stone. And okay, just take your time, build up steadily. Bing literally walks over to the biggest one that we had. No one was picking it up, but Bing picks it up, launched over the top. Was like, "What, like this, mate?" And I was like, "This guy's an absolute beast. Absolute beast."
What's the next question? Did you say any more?
Thought process through the 1,000 burpees.
Just you then, mate.
Yeah, just for you, then, mate.
Try not to wee myself, really.
But you did that anyway.
But yeah, that ended up happening. Yeah, I had a wee. It was either go for a wee in the toilet and miss out on the time, or just wee. So I went for it. Yeah.
On that, did you have? I know you had a goal time you wanted to go for. Did you set like every 100 in your head? But did you count in your head?
50
Yeah, I did count in my head. I did 50 every 3 minutes, and then we did the maths so that I turned around every 50. So it was just face one way, do 50 in 3 minutes, and then just make sure I average that, go out strong, and just try and hang on. I've done a good amount of training. I did 500 or something like a couple of weeks before, and then didn't really do too many in the week or a bit before. But yeah, just each week thought it was possible. I went for it.
So yeah, any more questions, mate?
Best CrossFit tips for beginners. That's for Lewis, from Lewis.
So I think the best CrossFit tips are to just go to a class and don't put too much expectations on yourself, and just to get in consistently and enjoy it. Like, because it is enjoyable, and like just come in, do the classes, follow the program that's on the board, because the program is legit. Like, you don't need to do anything special, just enjoy it, and like, that's it. By enjoying it, it'll make you keep coming, and then T, you can throw something into there, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, echoing what you said, come to the classes, find your feet within it. I mean, like, it's very easy to kind of come in and want to do everything, but like, if you just come to the classes, do the programming, as you said, the programming is legit, especially here, just saying. Yeah.
Well, I think on that as well is like, don't expect to do it all at once.
Yeah.
Because I think it happens a lot where like, I can't do this yet, I can't do that yet. But like, eventually you'll do it. There's so much stuff in CrossFit. Yeah. You can't do it all at once. You can't even do it in an on-ramp session or an induction.
No chance.
Just take your time, learn things as they come, and
and build up steadily, definitely.
Yeah, like I say, come to the classes. In time, you'll learn to do everything in them classes. You can't, like I say, there's so many movements. You're not necessarily in the first month going to do every movement there is possible to do. I did literally just did the classes for the first 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years before I did any sort of programming at all. I just went to the classes, might have added in a few extra bits of accessory work, but other than that, it was just do the classes, enjoy it. Exactly. I mean, when we first started, it was just the enjoyment of going. You knew 5 o'clock class, 6 o'clock class, whatever it was. That was the best part of the day. That hour of the day, you're just smashing yourself.
Straight to the whiteboard. Right, what times are up there then? Who's getting beat?
Exactly. Who's getting competitive? That's the best way to go about it. You look at it.
You were enjoying it.
You're just enjoying it. If you don't enjoy it, it's a chore to come to the gym, then you're not going to stick it. I mean, all of us now come to the gym because we enjoy coming. Yeah. The amount of training you do, you don't come because it's because
you want to come.
Because you want to come, and you won't stick at something if you don't. So.
What about you, Matt? And final thoughts from Matt Cox on his first of many podcasts with us.
It's been an absolute privilege to be alongside this, competitive athlete. It's awesome.
It's such a dick.
50% of Didcot's fittest couple right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're that at the minute, but yeah.
Just take your time, build up, have fun, just enjoy it. Like you said, don't put too much pressure on, and just enjoy the process.
Nice, and that is that.